The Mulhall family hailed from Kilclare Gardens in Tallaght, a working-class area in South Dublin. At the centre of the family were John and Kathleen Mulhall, who had raised a family of 6 children, 3 boys and 3 girls. Kathleen, originally from the travelling community, had married John Mulhall, but their relationship was marked by years of abuse and turmoil. Reports suggested that John Mulhall was physically abusive toward Kathleen, which ultimately led to the breakdown of their marriage. In 2002, Kathleen entered into a relationship with Farah Swaleh Noor, a man originally from Kenya, though he claimed to be a Somali refugee whose family had perished in the Somali civil war. This new relationship quickly became troubled, with Noor allegedly abusing Kathleen in the same manner that her first husband had. He had a history of violence, particularly toward women, which would later emerge during investigations into his background. Linda Mulhall, the elder of the 2 sisters, was 30 years old at the time of the killing. Her life had been filled with hardship, largely stemming from her troubled upbringing and the trauma she faced. She left school at a young age and struggled to maintain stable employment. Linda had 4 children from previous relationships, and her life was marked by alcohol and heroin addiction, leading to repeated issues with the law. Her most notable previous conviction was for larceny in 1993, a crime that set the tone for many of her future encounters with the justice system. After her relationship with the father of her children broke down, Linda became involved with another abusive partner, Wayne Kinsella. Kinsella's cruelty toward Linda's children was horrific. He physically abused them, in one case beating the children with an electrical flex. The authorities intervened, and Linda's children were placed in foster care while Kinsella served time for his abusive actions. This history of abuse, addiction, and criminal behavior was a key factor in Linda's mindset at the time of the murder. She had faced years of trauma, and her violent actions against Noor were heavily influenced by these experiences. Charlotte Mulhall, the younger sister, was 21 years old when the killing occurred. Like her sister, she had a history of substance abuse, including alcohol and drugs, and had faced legal troubles as well. She had been involved in a series of criminal activities, including prostitution and minor offenses, such as public disorder and criminal damage. Charlotte was described by those who knew her as a troubled individual, and her behavior was often reckless and impulsive. Charlotte's upbringing mirrored that of her sisters, filled with neglect, emotional abuse, and instability. She too was drawn into the destructive cycle of substance abuse, which would contribute to her actions on the night of Noor's death. Despite these issues, she was seen by some as more vulnerable and impressionable compared to Linda, although both sisters shared a deep resentment toward Noor and their mother's treatment. Farah Swaleh Noor was a 40-year-old man who had arrived in Ireland in 1996 under false pretenses, claiming to be a Somali refugee whose family had been killed during the civil war in Somalia. However, investigations later revealed that he was actually Kenyan and his family was still alive. Despite this deception, Noor managed to gain Irish citizenship in 1999 after fathering a child with an Irish woman. Noor's criminal record was extensive. He had multiple convictions for offenses, including intoxication, assault, and threats of violence. He was also convicted of a serious assault in 1997, in which he assaulted a mentally disabled 16-year-old girl, resulting in the birth of a child. Noor had also been charged with numerous offenses, including assaults against women, which painted a clear picture of his violent nature. Despite his troubling past, Noor continued his relationship with Kathleen Mulhall, who, like many women in abusive relationships, struggled to leave him. The events that would lead to his brutal murder unfolded over several months, culminating in a fatal confrontation on the night of March 20th, 2005. On the evening of March 20th, 2005, the Mulhall women, Kathleen, Linda, and Charlotte, were all heavily intoxicated after drinking alcohol in Dublin city centre. At some point during the night, they returned to Kathleen's flat in Summerhill, where they took ecstasy. Kathleen had reportedly crushed a tablet into Noor's drink, ensuring that they were all on the same buzz. At the flat, Noor and Linda were sitting together on a two-seater couch, with Charlotte sitting on the armrest. Noor, in a drunken stupor, began to act inappropriately, touching Linda in a sexual manner. He whispered into her ear and attempted to pull her closer, refusing to let go. This escalated the situation, and an argument broke out between Noor and Kathleen. According to reports, Kathleen instructed her daughters to murder Noor. In a frenzy of rage and possibly under the influence of drugs, Charlotte grabbed a Stanley knife and slashed Noor's throat, sending him to the ground. Linda, in a fit of anger, picked up a hammer and struck Noor repeatedly on the head. The sisters then proceeded to stab him more than 20 times. Their mother Kathleen watched, but did not directly intervene. After Noor was killed, the sisters began the gruesome task of dismembering his body. They dragged his remains into the bathroom, where they used a kitchen knife and hammer to sever his limbs, head, and penis. To prevent blood from spilling, they placed towels over Noor's legs. The dismemberment process took several hours, with the women working in a state of shock and adrenaline. Once Noor's body was dismantled, they placed his dismembered parts into black plastic bags and a sports bag. The head was kept separate, as they did not want to throw it into the canal, as this would make identification difficult. They decided to take it with them on a bus to Tallaght, where they walked through the local shopping centre and into a nearby park. There, they buried the head in a field, but this was not the end of the disposal process. In a disturbing twist, Linda later returned to the park and exhumed the head, using her son's school bag to transport it to a different field in Killinarden Estate. There, she smashed the head with a hammer before reburying it. The discovery of Noor's dismembered leg in the Royal Canal near Croke Park on March 30th, 2005, marked the beginning of the investigation. Garda sub-aqua divers retrieved the rest of his body in several parts, but Noor's head and penis were never found. The leg, still wearing a sock, was the key piece of evidence that eventually led the guards to begin connecting Noor's murder to the Mulhall family. Initially, the sisters denied any involvement in the crime. However, after several weeks of investigation, Linda contacted the police and admitted her role in the murder. Her confession set off a chain of events that led to further evidence, including bloodstains found in the Summerhill flat, which matched Noor's DNA. Linda's confession led to the arrest of both sisters, and eventually their mother, Kathleen, who had fled the country to England in September 2005. She was eventually located and returned to Ireland in 2008, where she faced charges for her role in concealing evidence and assisting in the cleanup of the crime scene. The trial of Linda and Charlotte Mulhall began in October 2006, with both sisters charged with murder. Charlotte was convicted of murder, while Linda was found guilty of manslaughter, as the jury accepted her defense of provocation. Linda's addiction to heroin and the volatile nature of her relationship with Noor were significant factors in her conviction. Charlotte received a mandatory life sentence for her role in the murder, while Linda was sentenced to 15 years in prison for manslaughter. Both women were sent to Mountjoy Women's Prison in Dublin. During her time in prison, Linda continued to attract media attention, particularly when she attempted to take her own life by slashing her wrists. The aftermath of the crime saw significant fallout for the Mulhall family. John Mulhall, the father of the sisters, tragically took his own life in December 2005, unable to cope with the weight of his daughter's actions. The Mulhall family's reputation was forever tainted by the gruesome details of the crime. Kathleen Mulhall's voluntary return to Ireland in 2008 brought her to trial, where she pleaded guilty to helping clean up the crime scene and was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Her role in the cover-up of Noor's murder further added to the family's notoriety. The horrifying nature of the crime has inspired numerous books, documentaries, and media coverage. The sisters' gruesome actions shocked Ireland and drew international attention. Books such as The Torso in the Canal by John Mooney and The Irish Scissor Sisters by Mick McCaffrey explored the events surrounding the murder in great detail, offering insights into the troubled lives of the Mulhall family. The crime and its aftermath raised broader questions about family dynamics, abuse, addiction, and the extremes to which some individuals might go under immense emotional and psychological strain. Linda Mulhall was released from prison in 2018 after serving over 12 years of her 15-year sentence. The legacy of the Mulhall family's crime remains one of the darkest chapters in Ireland's criminal history. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Scissor Sisters. To stay informed about the ongoing fight against organized crime and the changing tactics of both criminals and law enforcement, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you on the next video.